And we are live, guys. Welcome to another live stream from the Men of High Value channel. My name is Joseph Darling. Today we are talking about your potential, achieving your potential, but most importantly, first of all, we got to understand the theory of your potential and the theory of happiness. If there's a subject on planet Earth that's more important than anything else that you need to learn, is you understanding how happiness works. It's the purpose of life. It's why we're here, to actually be happy. Believe it or not, most people are depressed, most people are suffering, most people are this, that, and the other, but the purpose of life is for us to be happy. So if you're not happy, you're either not understanding the theory of happiness, meaning your potential. That's what's potential, right? You can be happy if you want to. You either don't understand the theory of happiness, or you haven't applied it. Because you got to do both. You got to learn, and then you got to work. And then there's something in between, actually even comes before and in between, and throughout this entire process, is that you have to believe that it's actually possible to have the things that I'm talking about in this video. There needs to be a belief that you can have what I'm suggesting you can have. And if you don't have that belief, then you've got a desire to believe. And that desire needs to increase over time in intensity. And if it doesn't, then you're not working towards it, and then you don't really want it in the first place. But it's kind of strange though. Like, what's wrong with a person if that person doesn't want happiness? Like, it doesn't make any sense, right? Everyone wants happiness. But when you're miserable, you don't think that you can have happiness, and so you're just stuck in your misery. Well, let me tell you once and for all, right now, you can have happiness, and you can have it over time if you're right now extremely depressed, okay? I'm not going to say that you can be happy today and everything's going to be wonderful, honky-dory. It doesn't work like that. There's a process to it. But that you can have unlimited amounts of happiness over time, 100%. Absolutely. We overestimate what we can do in the short term. In other words, how happy we can be in the short term. But we underestimate the amount of happiness that we can have in the long term if we're willing to learn and if we're willing to work at it. So that's what I wanted to share with you guys today. Let's keep going. I wasn't really thinking about talking about happiness today. I actually just wanted to help you understand your potential. But I began to take notes for this video. I was just like, what is the potential we're looking for? Like, what are we trying to accomplish in general? We're trying to be happy. That's it. If we can figure that out, we figured out life. And then it's just about chugging along, moving towards greater and greater levels of happiness continuously. Everything you do in life, everything that you have, everything that you are, everything in life has an exponential growth or decline curve to it. Everything. So just imagine an exponential growth curve in your life. Let's apply this now to happiness. How do you achieve exponential growth? Like Einstein said it, compound effect is the seventh wonder of the world. Obviously, I'm paraphrasing. But the compound effect, what is that? It's you're basically having interest upon interest. Not financially, but in any other aspect, like, for example, happiness. If you take a number and then times it by 1.01 or 1.02 or 1.1, whatever you want, and then you push that equals button many enough times, you will get an exponential growth curve mathematically. You can't beat math. Math is science. Okay, there's a logic to it. So logically, you can have an unlimited amount of happiness if you work towards it. Does that make sense? Like, that's logically. That's not just, it's it's luck if you become happy, or there's it's chance by chance that person is happy, or he's so lucky that he managed to get this, that, and the other, and for him being happy all the time, or this, that, and there's an exponential growth curve. That exponential growth curve comes from certain consistent steps that are taking over time, consistently, and there's a mathematical formula to it, and that's how the exponential growth curve arrives. If we understand this, we just need to understand, we just need to know what those steps are. Like, what is it that I need to work on in order for me to be exponentially happy over time? So this is what I'm sharing with you guys right now. First of all, who determines if you're happy? Who determines your happiness journey? Who determines if you do get that exponential growth curve in happiness? I hope the microphone's working. Let me just double check. It looks like it. Who determines if you're happy or not? Long term, right now, ever. It's you. You are the captain of your ship, the master of your fate. You determine whether you're happy or not. Always. If someone offends you, you decide. Are you miserable? Are you upset? Are you still happy? Are you fired up outside your brain? What filter do you see through to see the world? I mentioned this in another video where you basically have your filter glasses that you put on every single morning, and you're either depressed or you're extremely happy or you're somewhere in between, right? But those are your glasses that you put on personally in the morning. And then you go out and then you have that filter, those glasses, in front of you seeing everything that you see. Who decides what filter that is? Who decides whether you've put on the happy filter or the negativity filter or whatever filter you've put on? You decide that. No one else decides. There's one thing, and one thing alone, that you can have full and complete control over. Very interestingly, if you do get control over it, you can control everything else over time. But that thing is your brain, your mind. If you can control your thoughts, you will be able to learn how to control your emotions. And if you can put that combo together, you'll be able to control your behaviors. This, if you haven't been around my channel, is the definition of masculinity. To be able to control your thoughts, emotions, and behaviors independent of circumstance. Which glasses do you have on? Which filter do you have on? How happy are you? It's a decision. But what affects it? It's you, but let's look at it. Okay, your ability to control your thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. This is what determines your happiness levels in life, by the way. Because if you can control your thoughts, then you can rationally look at every single situation, no matter what it is, with the filter of happiness. And if not happiness, if it's like an extremely tragic situation, because those happen, then you can look at it from a peace standpoint. And that peace will give you happiness. Okay, it will give you comfort. It will give you, do you get what I'm saying? You'll be able to nurture yourself in your own brain when something bad happens. So you're still happy. But obviously, you're grieving, or, you're temporarily sad because of something happening. But very quickly, you'll figure out that actually might, for example, I had one of my clients, Lewis. He mentioned in a call that we had yesterday, actually, about a guy named Elisha Long. I don't know his story. I don't know who it is, actually, unfortunately. But he told me that his parents passed away when he was 19. I don't know if the story's, exactly the way that he explained it, because I'm just relating it as a third party. But he had said that this was one of the best things that had ever happened to him, because he ended up taking life by the horns and actually needing to step up and be responsible for his siblings, needing to become successful and needing to do this, that, and the other, is a horrible, tragic event that happened. But he was able to use that filter, those glasses, and make that become an amazing thing over time. Do you see what I'm saying? So in the moment, it was tragic, it was sad, it was horrible, but he took it and made his desire for happiness, that intensity was transferred towards moving towards that and making things happen, so to speak. So that's a happiness lens where you transform something that was extremely difficult and hard and made it into something that blessed a lot of people's lives. Does that make sense? Just using that as an example for now, since I thought about it. So if you're able to do that, to control your thoughts, emotions, and behaviors, that's the ultimate, really. Because that determines how happy you are. And it also determines whether you have abundance or exponential growth curve in every single other category of your life. It's not only about you deciding that you're happy, happy, happy. There are other things that you need in your life that needs to be solved. And this is what, here comes number 2 then, as a result of what I'm talking about, is your ability or your happiness will be directly proportional to your ability to handle problems or to solve problems. Again, everything to do with masculinity. But if you're able to solve problems, any problem, that's going to fire you up. That's going to make you excited. That's going to put a lens of excitement when you find a new problem. Ooh, a new problem. Exciting. I've never done this before. I've never tried, but let's go for it. Obviously you don't want it to kill you, so you got to, do some risk management and all that stuff. But in general, you should be open to trying new things. Unless you know from past experience that those things are extremely bad for you, for others, and for society at large, right? But in general, if it doesn't hurt other people and it doesn't hurt you very bad, then you should be open and willing to try something new if it fits according to your prioritization of your life. Solving problems, that's what I'm talking about here. If you're able to solve problems, that's going to affect your happiness a lot. This is in perfect relation to the word power. The definition for Google, and we use this definition here, power is a fantastic thing, and you need a lot more of it. Power is the ability to do. What is the ability to do? It's the ability to solve problems, basically. Okay, can you actually achieve something? Can you actually do what you want to have done? Can you put in A here so that you can get B on the other side? That's what solving a problem is. That's what power is. So if you are unable to do something, that means that you are powerless in that area of your life. And that's okay. Like, you don't need to become powerful in every single category of your life, except for those categories that are significant for you and that you want to be significant in, if that makes sense. So if you're able to only solve small itty bitty problems, maybe your own problems, you're just focused on me, you all of the time, then you're going to have mediocre happiness. You're going to actually get depressed. The more you focus on you, the more depressed you're going to be throughout your life. The more you begin to look outwards and look at the needs of other people, the happier you're going to get. Which means that you don't need a lot of power in order for you to be happy as a guy. Because us guys, we very often don't care very much. We just need subsistence levels. We just need food, shelter, whatever, exercise, look good, get some girls, blah, blah, blah. And then we're content and we can just do whatever we want. But trust me, those guys eventually, they hit a limit of like, man, what am I doing all of this for? And there's no purpose to my life and blah, blah, blah. They're depressed, really, inside. Although you can't see it, and they've got a ego thing going on, so they'll never admit that, they need more in their lives. Okay? But if you truly understand how this potential works, how your happiness works, how solving problems for the masses work, then you begin to tap in a completely different level of happiness than other people do. If you think huge, I can solve world problems type of mentality, now we're beginning to tap into a level of happiness that no one else can get. Your level of happiness is determined by you, and you determine how big of a problem you take on. If you're gonna take on just small itty bitty problems, then that's the level of success or the level of abundance or the level of happiness and potential that you're achieving. If you take on massive, huge problems that no one has ever been able to solve before, you're tapping into your masculine potential and you're tapping into who you were designed to be. That's what we're talking about here on this channel. I want you to be great. I want you to do I want you to think huge. The bigger you think, the happier you have the potential to become. Because it involves other people. That's the whole key. You think only about yourself, you'll think small. You think about the masses, billions of people, you'll think big. And when you think big, you'll think big about happiness as well. Next thing on my list, again, has to do with other people. I wrote down your ability to connect with others, but especially with your significant others. That's going to have a huge impact on your happiness. How much are you able to connect with your significant others? Now, significant others might be your women in the future. According to this channel, we procrastinate women for as long as we can. And once we're ready for them, financially have a massively strong foundation, we receive a stamp of approval from the Men of High Value community, we can take on the commitment for 3 women in our lives, not just one. One don't work very well if you want to have an unlimited amounts of happiness, okay? 3, extremely good. If you're able to actually cause them to be harmonized in the home, etc., etc. But that's another story for another day. If you want to understand how that works, then there's a link down below for the Women of High Value channel where I explain about relationships and male and female dynamics. But here, I just want you guys to understand that if you're able to control your thoughts, emotions, and behaviors, and you are powerful, that means that you're valuable. That means that other people want to connect with you. Remember what I said earlier about you need to first desire to believe, and then you need to believe, okay? And then you get to start the process of developing that exponential growth curve over time. It's the exact same thing with other people in your life. They have to desire to believe that they can connect with you. You determine whether they have the ability to connect with you or not. And the thing is that you can't have a lot of people connect deeply with you. You're going to have significant, like a small inner circle of people throughout your life that stick with you for life. And these people are the ones that determine your happiness a lot. So you got to be very wise in how you choose them. And you shouldn't be careful about choosing them when you suck. Because most of us right now, we suck compared to the future person that we're going to be. But over time, you're going to meet people that you want to keep in your inner circle forever because they're those kind of people. You trust them wholeheartedly. If there was ever a war, you'd stick with them. You'd make sure that they're protected because you know that they protect you, etc., etc. You know, this is type of your network, and your network is your net worth. But it also is in terms of the women that you have in your life, and of course your children, and of course your extended family as well. But remember, the inner circle, that's what determines your happiness, truly. And how much depth do you have with them? This has to do, again, with the exponential growth curve. Very often people sleep around with women, which is a huge problem because you never ever are able to build an exponential growth curve. In fact, the more women you sleep with, the less you're going to be able to create an exponential growth curve with any woman in the future. Because it's just going to be shallow relationship, very often because you give up. Players have the what do I say? The lack of ability to keep going when things become difficult. Successful people don't, right? We fail forward and we make things happen and we figure out why something is not working. But players very often, once a woman gets difficult because they have so many other options, then they simply let go of that woman who gave them problems, but he's the only reason why she gave him problems, by the way. It's always a man's fault if a woman gives a man problems. But what players do is that they put those women away who give them problems. And as a result, he'll never know what type of happiness he could have gotten with that specific woman. Now, obviously, over time, you'd think that he'd find a better and better and better woman, but the more of a player he is, the less he'll be able to pair bond with the woman because he keeps putting them away. He keeps thinking that he can find someone that's better and better and better, but over time, it's going to be extremely difficult to build depth with anyone because at some point, a man has to take the blame, has to realize that he's at fault for the problems that she is causing in his life, and he's responsible. That's when he can begin to go deep into a relationship with the woman. But this is obviously for much further, but you got to understand how this works so that you can see how it relates to your happiness. If you haven't set up your foundation properly yet, you're not ready for that aspect, right? It's the 5 phases of leadership. Allow yourself to be led. This is understanding the theory, basically, and seeing the example of others. And then it's leading yourself, is applying that theory. And then it's leading others. It's now applying the theory and being an example to others so that they can see you do it. And then they hopefully will go and do that, lead yourself and lead others aspect too, right? And then eventually it's lead women, lead kids. So that's for a later time, but just wanted to cover that point because it's crucial aspect to happiness. And then you've got the aspect of you helping others progress towards reaching their potential. This is very often when you are a father, right? You have kids, you want them to achieve their ultimate potential. The cool part is that everything that you've experienced throughout your life is added on top of all of the information that you've gotten from maybe your parents or that from your father, etc., but also from all the people that you've met. Once you have kids, you'll be able to tap into a wiser person than you were 20 years ago, and you can basically help your kid or help your kids to achieve their fullest potential in a fast-track manner, okay? The more successful you become, the more you actually begin to achieve your potential, both in happiness, but also in general in life. Get that exponential growth curve in every single thing that you do, the happier your kids are going to be. If you understand how to connect with them, right? There's a lot of successful people that have an inability to connect with their kids. What's up with that? That doesn't make any sense. That's part of your inner circle for sure. And a lot of successful people fail at that hardcore. And that's because they don't understand how these principles work, and they also don't understand how families work, especially how the woman works. But that's, again, another story for another day. But you got to realize that helping other people reach their potential is crucial for you to not only reach your potential in life, but to reach your happiness potential. Because when you see others succeed, you had a small part in that. You had an influence in that. Man, they made it, and I participated, and it's awesome. I'm fired up for them. You have no idea how often I've had that experience in my life, even till now, and I'm still a young dude. Can you imagine how many millions of lives I potentially can bless and helping them to reach their full potential? You can too. That's the whole point. That's what I'm trying to, bring to you in this video, is helping you to understand how do you fulfill your happiness potential. It's through other people, but it's not through what they do to you. It's what you do for them. It's how you lift them up and bring them with you towards the journey, towards success and towards happiness. And the way that you bring them along is by doing it with the truth. I haven't even mentioned that, but you got to understand the truth. The definition of truth, that which works in the long run, in the big scheme of things. All of the things that I've spoken about today, it works, okay? They make rational sense. It's math. It's science, okay? Although, you can't really, make a whatever university paper, but you could about the things that I'm sharing, but I'm just explaining to you, this is how success looks like. This is what happiness is. And for anyone that tries to explain it in a different way, I'm sure they have a few points, but these points that I've mentioned today, it kind of summarizes it quite a lot. And if you truly understand it and truly begin to tap into your happiness potential in this way that I've explained, your life will be completely different in a few years' time. Absolutely 100% different. This is one of the reasons why I encourage my guys and you guys to surrender to the 80-hour work week. Let that be your guide, because it will help you to tap into this information. It will help you to tap into your happiness potential, because you'll be miserable. You're going to hate your life in the beginning, but you're building your work ethic so that you always are on the go in the future, helping people and solving their problems, but in a much bigger capacity. But if you never build the work ethic, you're always going to be procrastinating. You're always going to be, complaining or being annoyed about this, that, and the other. Learn to do the 80-hour work week with a fantastic flippin' attitude. A great attitude. And that's going to change everything. Okay. And all of this wrapped in together, you know what truly is what determines your happiness? Your self-image. What you believe about yourself. Who you are. Understanding who you are at your core. This is what creates the intrinsic happiness, the intrinsic peace. Understanding that you are a man of truth. You are a man of integrity. You are progressing towards making other people happy. You believe in karma, okay? In the way that you send out good, good is going to come to you. And you do that millions of times, and you're going to get that tenfold back, or thousandfold, or whatever it is. It doesn't matter. You know it's just going to come. And that's what's amazing about this life. You don't know what's around the corner, but the more good you do, the more good stuff is going to come back. But it all comes back down to your self-image. See, all of these things that I explained to you have, what you're really doing is developing your self-image. Right? I'll mention them again. You're controlling your thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. Controlling your thoughts and your self-talk about your own self-image, that's controlling your thoughts. Right? And that's a logical step. For example, if I failed at something, then I'm going to be talking down to myself. Oh man, I should have been able to do this, and why do I never learn, and blah, 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 and I'm stupid, blah, blah, blah. If you talk to yourself like that, you're messing up your happiness potential. You're not moving in the right direction, right? But obviously, that's a failure too, so you just got to fail forward, right? Your self-talk is going to be horrible in the beginning, but I'm just explaining to you that over time, your goal is to speak to yourself positively, to speak to yourself in a way that is fantastic. You're awesome. I can do this. I'm going to make things happen. No matter what, I failed now, I'm going to get better tomorrow, and I'm going to get better the next day. And over time, I know what's coming. It's going to be massive. It's going to be huge, because I decide. I decide that I'm awesome. And how do I decide? Because I understand that my past is not my future. I understand that you can't judge a man by his past. You got to judge a man based on his growth right now and where he's going. So if that's the case in me judging another man, I got to judge myself like that as well. I can't judge myself based on my past. I got to judge myself based on who I am, potentially, right? Who I can become, my eternal perspective of who I am, and how fast I'm growing. Am I growing fast? It doesn't really matter how fast I'm growing. As long as I'm growing a little bit, like a 1% a day is sufficient. But if it's 0.0001%, but I'm just keep increasing that percent a little bit every single day, over time it's going to get to 1 or 2% per day. Do you get what I'm saying? And that's going to create the exponential growth curve eventually. It's impossible for it not to if you're focused on it. If that's what you want. If you want happiness, you can have it. Again, self-image. Self-image is based on math and science. The math and science inside your head in terms of self-talk. Your ability to handle problems. If you are not able to handle problems, if you're a victim, if you're like, oh no, there's a problem, I can't solve it, then your self-image is going to suck, right? And you're going to compare yourself to others. And I'm like, oh, I'm such a failure. And then you look at others who are actually able to do it and they think it's easy. Then you think something's wrong with me. What is wrong with me? And that's the negative self-talk continuing, right? But the more you begin to want to handle problems and you get a problem and then you solve it, you get another problem, you solve it, then over time, you're going to tackle the massive problems and then you solve it? Oh my gosh. Dang, bro. That's insane. You did it. And then not only do you get maybe the praise of others, which is pretty cool, but most importantly, it's for you. It's you knowing that you solved the problem. You don't care if people clap for you or if people are there for you or if people like think you're amazing. Although, sure, let's put that as a cherry on top. The most important thing though is that you know that you did it. If you have that intrinsic aspect of like, I'm not going to let this kick me. I'm not going to let this beat me. I'm a competitor. I compete at the highest level. I never surrender. I never give up. I'm going to fix this problem no matter what it takes. If you have that type of mentality, you're moving in the right direction towards happiness. Self-image, what's happening with your self-image? It's consistently improving over time. You're becoming a winner, okay? And your ability to connect with others, etc. If you are connecting with your significant others, there's nothing more beautiful than that. Once you're able to go deep with your women, okay? And I'm talking now emotionally, physically, all sorts of things. Deep, okay? You're going to have, that's going to elevate your self-image, okay? Your self-image is going to increase when you have beautiful women that want you, that worship you, that want to be with you, that can't get enough of you. That does something to your self-image, especially if they never ever leave you. If they stick around forever and they give you an amazing time all of the time because you know what you're doing. That is an amazing thing for your life, right? And most people can't figure that one out, how to create peace with women. It's an important one. And again, your self-image, that's what we're talking about here. How do we create this process? Okay? If you have low self-image today, you need to desire to have a good self-image because that's going to affect your long-term happiness. Then you need to believe that you can have it, right? Desire, belief. And then you're beginning to learn the theory of how it works. Like, for example, watching this video 10 times so that you can actually understand this process and then beginning to apply it into your life, including the 80-hour work week, including SR, although we haven't spoken much about it today. Understand what I teach on this channel about SR and how your brain works in terms of your dopamine receptors, in terms of your hormones. Everything is working towards your good if you actually just apply the correct principles. And then, what's the biggest problem for people? Why are they unhappy and miserable? Okay, they're not able to solve their problems. They are unable to connect with others, or they have a disconnect with others, or they're not able to control their thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. They keep failing, or they keep being an addict, or they keep doing this, that, and the other. What's their problem? What's their one problem? If you want to put this in one umbrella, they're diversified. Okay? It's the opposite of focus. They're diversified, which brings confusion. They're confused. That's really what's going on. If a person is miserable, it's because they're confused. They don't know something, or they're unable to get themselves out of that thing. Aspect of confusion. You never want to be in a position where you're confused, but you're going to be in a position of confusion all of the time as you progress throughout your life. As you progress throughout this journey, you're going to be confused all of the flippin' time. But your goal is to get out of that confusion as fast as possible. What do you need? You need to know the theory of how to solve this problem. And then you need to begin to apply the theory to find out that which works in the long run in the big scheme of things in that specific problem. Okay? Now that you begin to get a little bit of clarity because of the art of deduction, you're beginning to take things away from the problem, like things that don't work. You figure out things that don't work. Why? Because of your work ethic, because of your research, because you just try everything out and you're willing to try and fail. And if you do that, over time, you'll figure out that which works, and now you know what works. And there's always, something that might work a little bit better, but it doesn't matter. You're solving a problem. Once you've solved that problem, you're beginning now to get clarity. If you don't try to reinvent the wheel every single time that you solve a problem, it's amazing because any problem that you might have or anyone in the world has, there is someone somewhere in the world that can solve that problem in like 2 minutes. They can just hear the problem. They're like, yeah, I've been through this before. You just need to do A, B, C, and then basically the problem will be solved. Someone around the world knows the solution to your problem, no matter what problem it is. Probably, okay? 99.999% of the time, okay? If you know that, there is a solution. There's always a solution. You're just confused. And you're diversified because you have no idea which of these options will solve this problem. But there's other people that have gone through the exact same process and that have figured it out. And you haven't found those people yet. So it might be faster for you to go through that process yourself and figure out that which works, or find someone who's done it before and then get them to help you. This is how you become successful in anything. But in general, I'm just showing you guys the way towards happiness. Okay, towards getting that potential achieved in your life. Okay, you were confused. Now you're gaining clarity. Once you have clarity, now you can focus, right? There is no other option. You've chosen an option. Now it's the commitment to the strategy is more important than the strategy. The commitment to the strategy is more important than the strategy, which means that once you find a possible solution, you go for it. And you stick to it consistently for a long period of time. This is crucial. If you do that, if you have that clarity, that creates sense of urgency. Sense of urgency. This is what you want. Sense of urgency, man. The things are happening, okay? Though there's two aspects to sense of urgency. One is a sense of urgency that causes you to most probably give up. And then there's another sense of urgency that will actually cause you to keep going despite difficulty. The number one, the one that causes you to give up very often, is the one where you have an erratic emotional outburst of emotion, okay? An erratic outburst of emotion. This is where you basically are so fired up, you have sense of urgency and you feel it, and then you go out and you try, and then it failed so much, and then you begin to have negative self-talk, and then you quit on the problem that you could have solved, but you didn't stick with it long enough. Sometimes you got to do that, but the vast majority of the time, never ever give up. Give it years if necessary, if it's an important problem that's going to solve a lot of other problems. Stick to it. Stick to something and go deep. And then you'll figure it out. What happens over time is that you went from confusion, you went to clarity, and then you went to sense of urgency. Now you got to tap into the number two aspect of sense of urgency, which is consistency. Despite circumstance, despite feeling, rationally moving in the exponential curve direction. See what I'm doing here? This is the solution to all problems worldwide. Every single problem can be solved with this engineering principle. Okay? And over time, you will gain momentum. It's impossible for you to do something consistently for a long period of time without gaining momentum. You want momentum. Momentum is your friend. When you get momentum, everything happens. And when everything happens, you're beginning to get abundance. Your brain shifts, your brain expands. You begin to look at things differently. You're a different person as a result of you taking the steps necessary to get to that momentum. Do you know that these principles that I just outlined have everything to do with your happiness? You're confused about happiness and how that works, okay? You don't know how it works. It's a big problem. I'm so miserable. I can't figure it out. You're only confused. Can you eventually get that exponential growth curve in happiness? Yes, you can. Can it be 1,000-fold more than what you have right now? 100%. It's unlimited. Could you imagine unlimited amounts of happiness? Overflowing? You just can't. It's like, whoa, I'm so happy. Like, oh my gosh. Like, this is amazing. That type of life. Okay? You can have that. And maybe it's not, you don't get it in this life. You can. But even if you don't, even if you just keep going on that exponential growth curve past this life, you'll be able to have it eventually because you're working on it consistently and continuously for a long period of time. You will eventually get there. Most of you guys are confused about how happiness works. Now that you're beginning to listen to this video and apply the principles taught on this channel, you can now begin to take away stuff that you know. You figured out, yeah, that don't work. That one don't work. That one don't work. That don't work either. I can see it because I'm observing other people as a result of me listening to this channel. Trust me, you will. And if you don't, then you haven't checked out my other channel, okay? You got to put this together as a puzzle. Now that you've gained clarity, it should be giving you a sense of urgency. And if it's not, then we got to work on your self-image and your self-talk a little bit more. That's probably that's the problem. Or you're not allowing yourself to surrender to the process of the things that I teach. If you're still not having the sense of urgency of taking action on the things that I suggest. Why do you not want to be happy? I don't know. But that's up to you to decide when you want to take the steps necessary and take the steps forward in the correct direction. Who knows? Maybe I'm completely wrong and this is just a bunch of waffle, whatever. Okay, and this is just nonsense. But me personally, I know this stuff works. Okay? Once you have clarity, you get sense of urgency. Once you have sense of urgency, and then you choose to be consistent. Over a long period of time, failing forward, trying to apply the principles that I teach, over time, the exponential, you get that momentum that will create the exponential growth curve, and you'll come back to me and you're like, oh my gosh, thank you for teaching me the principles of happiness, how that works. This is the same process for happiness. It's the same process for love. It's the same process for peace, for any emotion or any human emotion that you want to have in your life. You can apply the exact same principle that I taught you here today. And you can apply it as well to any business endeavor, anything you want. You want exponential growth in your life? You want abundance? This is how you do it. Listen to this video 10 times. Thank you guys so much for watching. And I'll just read the comments here because there's no live replay. No problems, only solutions, 100%. I think you give some very interesting keys for personal improvement, human relationships related to industriousness, masculinity, and understanding of femininity. Highly appreciate that comment. You guys are absolutely amazing. I'll see you guys in the next one.